All right, welcome back to our Spirit Island tier list. Last time we did base spirits. This time we will be doing all the mini sets on the side. So, G, you want to run through which ones those are again and which spirits that's going to touch?
Yeah, so that's going to be Branch and Claw, Feather and Flame, and Horizons.
Horizon. Yeah. I always forget that one.
Yeah. Feather and Flame actually used to be the promo pack materials, which I'm glad they finally made into their own expansion, because, well, you'll see. You'll see why I'm glad. But yeah, let's start with Branch and Claw, which objectively, in my opinion, is the most innovative expansion, because they introduced all these really neat tokens and events.
I would have to agree with that. And we start off with a banger with Keeper of the Forbidden Wilds.
Where did you place him?
I mean, you already know. I put him in S tier. I love this guy.
You put him in S tier. Okay.
Yes. I don't get a chance to play him that often, but when I do, I love the idea of just the growth alone, where you have to do a lot of work, but you are able to get 2 presents down, but the sacrifice is very real. So that mini game is really fun for me. I also like that you're basically building a wall surrounding one guy and just beating him up with all your presents. I think that's really funny. And I don't know, he's just one of those spirits that feels really good to pilot, and you can try hard, but you don't have to, and that flexibility is really nice. I always have a good time with him, basically.
I'd have to agree. I really enjoy playing him, and yeah, I always have a good time playing him. I like his power cards, and he just seems like a chill guy, you know, despite the fact that his entire theme is "You darn whippersnappers, get off my land!" Like, that's literally his entire character. He's the opposite of Lure. But I put him in A tier simply because he's a little bit limiting. Like, he kind of... You can't play the game if the island gets too blighted too quickly. You can't expand in the way that you would like to, nor can you really have much of an influence on the other side of the map. If your friend is struggling, then it's like, oh, I just kind of gotta keep doing my own thing, or I'm going to also fall behind. I like to be, like I said in the previous video, I like non-linear spirits, and I like to be everywhere on the map at once. So these spirits that are limited in terms of growth, they will be at A tier for me.
Okay, hear me out though, hear me out. Although he does really get screwed by Blight, I can acknowledge that. I do think that despite that, you can do a decent amount of work. Like, as long as like an entire section of the land is not blighted, you can sneak your way in somewhere, and you have 2 ways to gain power cards on your growth. Like, if you're really screwed for flexibility, you just get other powers that can target things that are blighted.
For now, I'll put him up in S tier with your placement, because I agree with the things that you said. And we'll see. We'll see if he's high S or low S, or has to go back down to A after we get to the next spirits. Which, speaking of,
All right.
we got Sharp Fangs behind the leaves. This guy is basically like Thunder Speaker, but with beasts. I put him in C tier.
Ooh.
He's very aggressive early. He's very fast paced. He's the only spirit that I've ever won the game on turn 2 with. In a solo game I played a long time ago when I was playing him, and I won on turn 2. It's the only spirit I think in the game that's capable of pulling off something like that. That being said, after the first 3 turns, he feels, in my opinion, not that great to play. He's very slow in terms of adapting to the late game power that invaders are capable of, and the late game power that other spirits are capable of. You've pretty much relegate yourself to just turning your presence into beasts to make events better for your team. That's pretty much it. It's a lot more sacrificial, and there is no, like, scaling damage with beasts the same way that Thunder Speaker has scaling damage with Dahan. That's just my opinion. Because he falls off just a little bit too quickly, and also beasts are much more unpredictable than Dahan, it's kind of harder to maneuver him around and play with him.
I will say, I think that he actually does Lightning's job better. Mostly because you actually kill things, you actually impact early, And when it comes to that late game, you're going to get a ton of beasts on the board. I think that sacrificing your presence is a cool idea that he does one of the best jobs at doing, but I would have to agree with everything else you said. He feels really slow come mid-game, come late game. I feel like your time to play and have fun is those first couple turns, but it gets a little monotonous after a little bit because the flexibility is not there. I also put him in C tier.
Okay. Yeah. Him and Keeper both suffer from Blight, but Keeper less so because Keeper actually is able to remove Blight. So, yeah. It feels limiting in the way that you play him.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong. I think he's a strong spirit, but there's a fun tier list, so that's where he's going. Who do we got next?
Up next, we have my GOAT. Heart of the Wildfire in S tier.
Oh, man.
Hear me out. People on stream have mentioned this before, that I have no reservation about Blight and Blighted Island and killing my teammates' presence, and it's because Heart of the Wildfire represents my ultimate playstyle in Spirit Island. I love the spatial puzzle of managing your Blight, and I love just being able to do a ton of damage, but like it has a drawback. I'm a huge proponent of checks and balances when it comes to game design, and that is just this spirit is just that made manifest.
Alright, I'm gonna be so honest. I put this guy in B tier, man.
In D tier?
B.
B, okay, I was about to throw hands. Why B tier?
Okay. Whenever I load up Spirit Island, I'm like, who do I want to play? I look at Wildfire, and I'm just like, nah, I don't really want to play him. Like, pretty much every single time. He feels a lot like, who do I say? Sharp Fangs behind the leaves, except you get to continue that power with the cost of adding Blight to the island. And honestly, I don't mind Blighted Island. I think Blighted Island is fine. I think it's fun every now and then, but it does like flip the game in a way that makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't like when, oh, we got a really bad Blighted Island, we're screwed. I don't like that I have to go Blighted Island with the spirit every game. That's the only thing. I will say, the fire mechanics are really cool. The getting 1 energy per fire showing, the dealing damage based on your fire, it's very thematic, but it also feels really, really bad when you get a card and it doesn't have fire on it and you're screwed. Other than that, respectable spirit.
I would say you don't have to always get a card with fire. In fact, I actually prefer to get cards with plant because then that kind of mitigates like how much blight you're dealing on the island, and you're able to actually clean it up. Not to forget, you start the game with 2 extra blight. I think that Wildfire is great in multiplayer games, especially the more players that there are, the better he gets because the more blight you have to work with. Like, just the fact that you can just pretty much essentially destroy a city on your growth. Even after you grow there, you can deal damage on fast with your innate power, which you should pretty much always be getting. I love that. He's a very ends justify the means type of spirit. Can we agree to put him in A tier, just between S and B?
I'm down for A tier. I will say, I think he might be S tier contender in terms of fun. I might not just have the hours because you mentioned the plant thing. I didn't think of that. I'll have to consider trying him out again, and we might place him in a different spot after that.
All right.
Okay. I mean, it's my boy Serpent. You know where he has to go. I don't even have to say it. Just pick him up. Like this character is so stupid, but he's the only one with scaling power so insane. Like the ability to skip a couple turns by getting presence on the board through an event, through a blighted island, through a major power, through your own innate. You do that once, you feel like you just instantly won the game. And sometimes that you actually do instantly just win the game by playing well after that. You also get all your power cards are pretty solid considering your growth is so bad. You can buff someone else so they can carry for the short term. You can do an AoE defend that usually in like 2-3 player games, you can hit like 3 lands pretty consistently. I think this spirit feels really good to pilot. I feel like you'll eventually get a couple brain blast moments. The ultimate is like the cherry on top. Everything else is like the journey being better than reaching the destination.
I almost agree with everything you just said. However, he's a very linear spirit in terms of his growth. You can't get to the good parts of his presence tracks until you have consumed a bunch of presents. And not just that, he just takes so long to get set up. If you're playing on higher difficulty and you don't have someone to take care of that earlier stuff, he's just kind of... It feels like he does nothing. And I don't like playing spirits that feel like they do nothing. I appreciate him as a support, but given everything else, I would have put him in C tier.
Okay, here's one caveat I want to bring up to your point. You think he's linear? I actually hard disagree with that in terms of growth, because top and bottom track are very different decisions. Usually, you want to go bottom track, but it will force you to reclaim more, and sometimes the elements on top track actually let you impact the board more so in the early game, when you are still scaling up. I also think that being able to gain elements, or give elements, while eating people is a very happy sacrifice. As a support, doing that in the same turn that you're giving someone energy, or being able to grow them, feels like a reward for supporting well, that something like Spread of Rampant Green just kind of gets for free. That doesn't feel rewarding. When you give someone else presents, you're like, oh cool, bro. I got a presence. I'm playing with green. But when Serpent does, it's like, oh my god, you actually hit it. That's so good for us. And then you feel that in the future turns. You might have to work harder to do more on the spirit. I think the reward and the feeling of doing well more than justifies how linear he can seem in the early game.
Since you clearly know what you're talking about more than me, I'm just going to move it up to A tier.
I'm down with A tier.
Alright.
Another goat appears. Where did we put him?
Downpour, Drenches the world. This spirit has the best visual design in the game. I put him in B tier. I think that his water mechanics, like the whole thing with his passive and being able to repeat and also gain energy and give that to your allies, I think that makes him a very, very high skill ceiling character, and I respect that. But keeping track of all that stuff and remembering all that oftentimes gets more complicated than the actual game, and for me it just doesn't click. Like, I want to like this spirit, but every time I play him it just doesn't click. Like, he's too hard for me. That's why I put him in B tier. I love this concept and everything about him, but I just can't get a good game with him.
I see. Okay. Well, I will say, when I'm playing Downpour, and I have played more Downpour recently, I think the fun part is that you're kind of playing like two different growth phases. So usually when you're on your spirit phase, you decide what you're playing and you just resolve all the cards, right? But for Downpour, you don't resolve all your repeats until fast and slow. So you can kind of adapt with the game. Let's say your teammate does something that you weren't expecting. Let's say that an event affects an area that you were gonna cover, but now you can instead gain an energy. So that extra decision making on top of what's going around and kind of going with the flow, that's where I think Downpour is most entertaining. Like, you are forced to stay engaged in the game in a way that doesn't feel like, oh, if I don't pay attention, I lose. It feels like I get rewarded for being aware of what's going on. And that's what I like about Downpour. I will say there are a couple funny moments when you're giving like 4 gifts out. We had that in a recent video that we recorded.
Yeah, I remember.
That was I'm gonna post that meme. That's a funny one. But it's just a straight up diagram. It looks like a solid state machine. It's so funny. But yeah, the moments that you get on this character feel pretty fun. Through the lens of the spirit, I put him in S tier.
You put him in S tier.
I'm willing to throw him in between that. Put him in A tier.
I'll put him in high S tier.
A tier. Yeah.
Or, yeah, high A tier. My bad. And at this point, the viewers can probably see why I said earlier that I'm really glad that Feather and Flame was turned into like an actual expansion and you can just buy these 4 spirits. Because so far, me and Ethan have given each of these guys at least one S tier. But now I'm confident this next one, both of us gave him an S.
You're confident? Are you really confident?
Yes.
All right, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
I love how goofy this spirit is. He's just... The fact that he has a negative offensive rating can put you off to him at first. But the amount of control you have on the board to be able to just push stuff around and all that, it is just so much fun to me. I love just making plays happen and letting people use my presence as portals. That single thing just makes him so much fun, and it brings a breath of fresh air to every game that we play with him, because it's like, you can really engineer some plays that you can't with other spirits. I want to get better at this spirit. This is the one spirit that I want to play more just so I can improve at playing him, because he's so much fun, just so creative. And not to mention, he has 6 unique starting cards, which was the first spirit of its kind to do that. And there isn't one card in there where it's like, oh, this is just fluff. No, it's all necessary to make him work. And can we just talk about his presence tracks? They're the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like a web of just, yeah, I'm gonna go forwards and then backwards and then down. I'm just creating my own little playstyle every time. And I know you agree with me. I know you put him in S tier as well.
Here's the thing, man. I think that Finder has a lot of turnoffs. I agree. The offensive turnoff is something you kind of get over. And Isolate as a mechanic, like by itself, feels pretty meddling. And Isolate's kind of a big thing with him. It has a lot of small mechanics that add up together that feel really good. Like the round down, round up stuff, I will say, that's really daunting. It's really weird. Not a lot of spirits have that. Finder having it in certain ways can make it really awkward to pilot. I know you were struggling with that when we were recording that first video, that you played with them in a while. And not being able to kill anything, like just straight up, if you're against England, I'm sorry to say you're probably screwed. Like, it's not gonna look good. You need a spirit combo for that. But all that said, when you actually do kill a ton of things on the spirit, it feels amazing. Because you're doing something you're not supposed to do, but you're justifying your action. When you hit the double isolate to prevent builds on certain adversaries at the higher levels, it feels amazing. I think this spirit suffers at low level play, because compared to other spirits, what he does is very middling. But once you get the hours, once you get a good teammate, and once you play at the mid to high level, he feels extremely rewarding. So, S tier. It's not an obvious S tier, but he deserves it, in my opinion.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. You had me there for a second. I was like, oh, this guy put him in B tier because he's too hard. No, I'm glad. You got me there. That was good.
But it is true. Like, I'm not just saying that to play devil's advocate. I do think that the first couple of times you play him, it feels awful. Like,
yeah.
It's so real. It's like, why is it round down? Why is it round down?
Making the executive decision to get a damaging major power is so nice. It's like when a paladin just decides that someone cannot be redeemed, and then they smite. It's great. I like it. Yeah. So that was Branch and Claw and Feather and Flame. So
Horizons is a mini set. I actually thought it was a fake knockoff game for a while because I've never seen it before. My roommate at the time when it came out, he brought it to the table. I'm like, what the heck are these spirits? Never played this in my life. They're so dumb and simple. I do not hold that opinion currently.
Yeah, no,
I actually really appreciate these guys.
I'm so glad that they made more low complexity spirits, because I just sometimes want to turn my brain off and I don't want to play Shadows Flicker Like Flame for the 50th time, you know? I want to try someone a little bit different. So I'm actually excited to talk about the Horizons guys, because they actually all introduced some interesting mechanics, starting with Devouring Teeth Lurks Underfoot. This guy... Okay, I put him in C tier, but I'm reconsidering and I might put him in B tier. Here's why. I put him in C tier for the same reason why I put Sharp Fangs in C tier. He's just aggression, and that's it. But the reason I like that is I don't think he provides the same experience because he has the +1 on his innate special rule, all of his other stuff is therefore weaker. But it feels like this is a spirit that they gave him this mechanic so that you can try out all the minor powers and major powers with that like special rule and just be like, wait, this is great. Like, could you imagine Elusive Ambush?
It's a classic. It's a classic.
That's a defend 4 or damage 1. But with this, it becomes
But now it's
damage
2.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, I think that all because it's simple and one note does not mean it's bad. Like, on the surface, this guy is, oh, whatever. You do more damage. Cool. But actually, it is cool. It is actually cool. Because of the way he's designed, he feels like a more lightning. And he also feels harder to play for a new player, because lightning kind of just tells you, okay, I'm killing a town, okay, I'm killing a city. But with Teeth, you kind of have to do the math. And I think that's a cool introduction to dealing damage for new players, compared to lightning, which just tells you which thing to kill. And I think the other thing that Teeth is really cool with is, for more experienced players, you now have reasons to not just go major powers. Like, major powers are so strong, but Teeth actually gets more benefit off card plays plus minors. So you're trying to fish for those minor powers, and worst comes worst, you can replace a bad set with a major power. I think that dichotomy compared to other basic spirits is kind of cool. So B tier for me as well.
I don't remember if... So I know Wildfire has this, but I think Devouring Teeth also has a buff that he can give allies to give them the benefit of the +1 damage on one action. I don't remember if that's exactly what the effect was, but...
So, once per turn, target spirit may deal +3 damage when using a damage-dealing power.
Oh, yep, there it is. Yep.
Gift of Furious Might. Yeah, it's a very powerful one. It gives the same idea as he does, because he's playing like 2 or 3 powers anyway, including his innate on most turns, so he's kind of doing +3, so this is like, oh, you can kind of see what it's like.
Alright, so then B tier he goes.
I think he's a solid B tier, but he is underrated. He comes off a lot more boring than he actually is. Eyes Watch... what's the exact title?
Eyes Watch from the trees.
Yeah. Eyes Watch from the Trees. Where did I put him? I threw him in at A tier.
Okay.
I think that his special rule alone is pretty fun. Like, being able to gather whenever you defend. I've noticed that a lot of these spirits augment an existing power that's in the game in a synergistic way. So Teeth just does the damage, and Eyes kind of does extra defend with the drawing in the Dahan, but in a different way. It makes your Ravage better. I like that by doing this, you are not necessarily having to play for the Ravage. If your Ravage is already dealt with, you're just prepping for the next one, which I think is cool. You can manage your Dahan that way, and the base cards are pretty solid for this character, surprisingly. They don't feel super useless. They feel very impactful. Mysterious Abductions, we just have that for no reason, by the way.
Yeah.
Because you're in the tree. I think it's funny.
And I think I know why, finally, they distinctly say 1 damage instead of destroy an explorer. And I just realized it's because of Devouring Teeth.
Yeah. It's they wanted all these characters to synergize somewhat, so that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I also put him in A tier,
yeah,
because just being able to gather Dahan on defend is really cool. He was weird when I first played him. Like, he came off as a very unorthodox defensive spirit. And I mean, obviously he has defense, but he doesn't seem he does it in like a really like twisted way. Like, instead of "stand behind me, citizen, you are under my protection," he's just kind of acting from the shadows and just like picking up invaders with his branches and stuff like that. And it's a lot more spooky of a defense spirit. I would actually say that he is my favorite defensive spirit in the game. That is why I put him in A tier.
I can understand that. Yeah. I will say his flavor is the weirdest of all the other spirits. Like, all the other spirits are like a thing, right? And he's kind of like a thing within a thing.
He is what Shadows was supposed to be. He was supposed to be the weird, creepy spirit that the Dahan respect. Like, Shadows is a goofy little gremlin. Eyes Watch from the Trees is just a silent guardian.
Yeah, I can see that. But I do think he can be a turnoff to new players. I have showed players that are new to the game a lot of the low complexity spirits, and they never pick this guy. Just because the flavor on him is so odd at first. But once you actually try him a couple times, I think the reward starts coming. He's surprisingly fun to play. Just straight up.
Also, 8 defense for 1 energy.
It's so stupid.
Yep.
Okay.
Next up is the Mud Badger, Fathomless Mud of the Swamp. He is a jack of all trades. He is the only spirit in the game who has an equal rating in each skill: offense, fear, control, defense, and utility. I put him in B tier for that exact reason. He is good at everything, but I don't think he's particularly impressive at any one thing. The main thing he has going for him is that his sacred sites make builds weaker. Like, it just creates more explorers. They can't build where the mud is. But in some regard, I feel like it's a bit limiting to destroy his sacred sites in order to deal damage. And also, his regular cards are all just a bit... The spirit has a lot of neutral colors. It doesn't excite me to play him. He is fun, but not fun in a memorable way.
Okay. I hear you. I put him as my most fun spirit for this expansion. I put him at the top of A tier, and here's my reasoning.
Okay.
I think that his innate alone is really unique. There is not a lot of spirits that move their presence on innate, and it's very flavorful. Like, if you ever tried molding mud, like that thing is just going to like dissipate and move around in the same way that his sacred sites move around. And that flavor aside, there's a lot more flexibility you can do with this, because you can actually turn a sacred site on one land to a sacred site on the other land if you plan around it properly. He doesn't require sacred sites for a lot of his power cards. He only has 1 power card actually that does that, which is Foul Vapors and Fetid Mud, which has 2 range. Like, you're not going to worry about it. But the special rule feels really good to use. It feels like Spread of Rampant Green, except you have to work harder for it, because you have to position well as opposed to having that extra growth option that you have with green. The last thing about him that I really, really, really like, Exaltation of Tangled Growth. This is the power card that says target pure spirit may pay 1 energy to gain a power card, and you pay 2 to gain a power card. This card feels so great to get off in the right build order. Getting an extra card on this spirit and not reclaiming feels great. So I put him in A tier. I think that all the little things add up to create a unique experience.
Let's see. Here's where we're at, though. Is he better than Eyes Watch from the Trees? Personally, I don't think he's... I have more fun with Eyes Watch from the Trees. Would you say that Eyes Watch from the Trees is deserving of being higher or lower?
I personally have more fun. I actually have a collective tier list of everything, and I put them right next to each other. So personally, I think it's fine either way. I'm flexible on this one.
Okay. I'm gonna put him
at the bottom.
I'm gonna put him lower just because we both agreed at Eyes Watch from the Trees being A tier.
I agree.
Okay.
Alright. Rising Heat of Stone and Sand. Honestly, I like the spirit a lot more when I just started out, but he doesn't feel as good right now. So I put him in C tier. I think that his Gift of Searing Heat, relatively interesting. Giving someone energy, or they can pay 1 energy to do 1 damage. Of the gifts, it's solid, it's unique. But besides that and his special rule, I don't feel he's super unique. He just feels like a less fun Devouring Teeth, in my opinion.
It's funny you say that, because I actually put him in B tier, which right now is below Devouring Teeth. But he was higher than Devouring Teeth originally because I'm of the opinion that Rising Heat of Stone and Sand is the strongest spirit in the game. Straight up. Like, no questions asked. In terms of power, he is the strongest. Because just making every invader -1 HP in a land is just too good to pass up. Like, he is just so strong in that regard. he can kill a city. If a city is on a sacred site, he can kill it with his innate power, which does 2 damage. He is so strong in terms of the damage department and in the utility he provides to other spirits, weakening the invaders from the inside. And there's like 2 other spirits that give that fantasy, but they're much more complex. I think for a low complexity spirit, being able to essentially curse invaders on your sacred sites, I think that's really cool. So I put him in B tier.
I will say, I agree that it's cool. I do think that thematically, that curse idea is really interesting. I do think that his innate feels really bad, just because you either need 3 card plays, or you need to go on the 5th of top track to get your 2nd fire, or to get your 3rd fire, sorry. So the innate can feel really slow to get to. In my experience, although you will have a decent time clearing on your land, getting off of the mountain and sand can feel pretty bad. It kind of feels like gambling when you're playing with the spirit, because if you just get a game where it's mostly wetland jungle, it feels really, really bad. With other spirits, you don't get punished as hard for just how the game plays itself with the RNG. This one, it feels quite awful. Building a sacred site in 2 turns that is off mountain sands is pretty tedious. I'm down to keep him at the bottom of B tier.
Yeah, I think he deserves to be at the bottom just because he's a little bit too good. Like, he's almost good in the sense of like, being too optimal. Really?
I don't think he's too optimal.
I think he's the best spirit in the game.
We both need to put more hours in the spirit to feel it out, but I think the lack of flexibility actually makes him worse. And against certain adversaries, he actually doesn't thrive as much as I feel like you're letting on. I think we should both put more hours in it and see if that tier list placement moves, but I'm comfortable putting him at the bottom of B tier for now.
Okay. Last spirit.
All right.
This guy, what's it? Sunbright
Whirlwind. Yep.
This guy makes no sense. I put him in D tier.
Yo, what did you do to my boy?
Dude, okay. Let me get this straight. He has a card that does damage to 5 different invaders. So he's supposed to be the one who deals with explorers, right? He's the one who says, okay, bring all your explorers into my land so I can deal with them. Why does he also have a card that says push each invader to a different land? That is like, they made him seem like one thing, but he's actually another thing. Because those are the only 2 control cards he has, and the other 2 cards are buffs.
Yep.
He has an identity crisis, dude. Who was the spirit made for?
I don't think it's an identity crisis. Hear me out. The idea of the wind is that it's not controlled. You aren't allowed to gather things into a single spot. You're either allowed to mess it up or push it away, and I think that is very reasonable and relatively applicable with an ally. I think that this spirit suffers in solo play. I think in duo play, he feels pretty good actually. As long as you have someone else with a little bit of control or a little bit of damage, he can synergize off both of those angles. I don't like that he has 2 buffs. 2 buffs feels very limiting. On the bright side, 2 of your 3 growth options give power cards. And he is one of the few spirits with +4 energy and add a presence on the same growth option. If you want to play for majors, go ahead, bro. This is one of the best of the starter spirits to play major powers.
1 second.
And
+4 energy and add a presence?
Yeah.
Thunderspeaker has that too.
There are not that many that do, though. It's relatively rare.
Shifting Memories has it too.
Hold up, I'm fact checking. Shifting Memories has +2 energy and add a presence.
Oh.
And he has a +9 separately,
okay.
But you don't get the presence.
Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
So what I'm saying is...
Sunbright Whirlwind. Yeah. Where did you put him?
I put him in B tier. I will say, I agree on the 2 buffs on the power cards being really awkward to play beyond the first couple turns. And I don't feel attracted to playing the spirit compared to others. However, he does feel like a poor man's finder with damage options. He has a push on innate, a push on growth, and he has a card that pushes 5 different guys. I think relatively that scatter to the winds can feel pretty good. And I think once you start fishing for those majors, it can feel pretty good too.
In my experience, I just can't bring myself to agree with you. I don't want to settle for the middle of B and D, which is C tier, because I can't see myself wanting to play this spirit. Like for your valid justification for some spirits was I just can't see myself wanting to play this guy, and I feel that because he just feels like there's the playmaker, right?
Mm-hmm.
This spirit is the opposite of that. He is the griefer. He is the person who can just mess up your play because that is what his spirit does.
No, but you don't have to mess up the play. You just do it somewhere else. Like most spirits are only gonna tackle 1 or 2 lands on the Ravage on the build, and he can just say, okay, if you're gonna do it there, I'm gonna do something crazy somewhere else.
I just think your assessment of the poor man's Finder is pretty accurate. You could just play Finder.
I really want to put him in C tier, given this discussion. I will say I agree. I don't find myself wanting to play him much, but if I'm forced to play him, I actually don't mind, because I feel like the things that you can do are not too terrible. like put it this way: if someone forced you to play Sharp Fangs behind the leaves, you would have a lot of fun on the first 2 turns, and then you'd hate your life. If you play Sunbright Whirlwind, your first couple turns are awkward, and then it only gets better from there with the cards you get, because you're able to get so many extra power cards.
Okay, here's my final Hail Mary reason for why he should be in D tier. There's no one else in D tier.
I don't think there has to be anyone in D tier, man. Honestly, I only have a couple spirits in D tier. He's not one of them.
All right, low C tier. What
I'm
you just
happy
said about Sharp Fangs should put him above there, but at least Sharp Fangs is unique in like literally being the pioneer of beasts and controlling beasts.
Okay, I'm happy with this. I think we both made some pretty good points on a lot of our spirits. I think this tier list came out a lot more different than our original ones. I think the originals ones with the base spirits, there's a lot more consensus on those base spirits because we played them more. But with these kind of addition spirits, we definitely have less hours on them in comparison. But I think it's cool that as Greater Than Games has made more spirits, they have made them more consistently fun to play, as we can tell by the tier list here. Like, even the ones that we don't like to play as much, they fill niches. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. All right. This was our tier list for the mini expansions of Spirit Island: Branch and Claw, Feather and Flame, and Horizons. Next time, join us for our list of the Jagged Earth Spirits, the expansion that I think fundamentally broke Spirit Island and catapulted it into the amazing game that it is today.
And as an editor's note, we should have the collective tier list on screen. We'll probably do one collective video at the end where we justify each individual tier's rankings. But yeah, catch us in the next one.